There's a term in psychology called success by association. If you just roll up to any conference, just start taking pictures. They see you with David Goggins and Gary Vee and Andrew Huberman, they're gonna assume you're successful. I see him walking out of the gala and say, hey, Elon, I saw you at the World Affairs Council, a great speech, just really chill. Can I get your email? And he says, yes, he actually gives me his email. Homeless program I created at the large shelter in LA, have on video that Elon Musk said I know a lot. And I teach my clients how to do that, whether my clients wanna make 10 grand, 100 grand, a million, 10 million, 100 million. It doesn't really matter how much you wanna make. You just start where you are.
Christopher, usually I like to start by you discussing a little bit about what you help people do, and then how did you get into that?
Yeah. So my name is Christopher Kai. I wrote this book that I'm most well known for is about networking with billionaires and executives and celebrities. Blew up, went viral. And for me, when people ask what I do, I pretty much tell them three things. I've literally traveled the world the last 20 years, met and spoken to hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs, and they always lack three things. One is connections, whether you want to find high-paying clients, whether you want to find investors, when you find the love of your life. Connections, i.e. network. But if you don't have credibility, no one cares. So how do you build that credibility? How do you build what I call a boss bio, i.e. personal brand? And lastly, communication skills. So it's what I call the three ingredients of explosive success. Credibility, communication skills, whether one-to-one sales, which you're an expert at, or on stage. And lastly, the connections network.
Okay, and the book, your book, Big Game Hunting, that's specifically about how to create those connections?
Specifically about how do you create connections with literally the highest level people in the world. Because people always know, oh, your network is your net worth, but it's beyond that. It's actually your self-worth. It's everything, because what do we know about ourselves? We know it from other people. Like you have like crushed it in sales because you know about Russell Brunson, you know about all these people.
Yeah.
So how can you know anything about yourself unless you study other people?
What would you say to someone who's asking, they're brand new and they're trying to create connections? Like what would that person do? Because obviously if you've done something spectacular, people are like, oh, yeah, obviously you've done something really great. So how can like kind of an average person maybe connect with a billionaire, like a high level individual?
And here's the thing, it's not even just about billionaires, it's about the mindset, right? You know this, right? There's a term in psychology called success by association, because people always ask me, well, Christopher, I'm not Tanner, I'm not Christopher Kai. It's like, success by association is if you just roll up to any conference. Let's say I was at Aspire tour yesterday in Charlotte. I spoke there last year. You have like David Goggins, you have all these people there, right?
Yeah, right.
First thing is just start taking pictures with people that are successful. And when you start seeing them and you start seeing yourself, if they see you with like David Goggins and Gary Vee and Andrew Huberman, they're gonna assume you're successful.
Right.
Now, again, psychologically, they're like, well, why are you posing? That's so BS. Like, no, it's psychology. You go to celebrity homes. What do they have pictures of? Celebrities. You know, so the simplest thing is just start associating and connecting and communicating with people in bigger circles. And the simplest way, frankly, is going to like a 5-star hotel at like Waldorf Astoria and just start seeing how rich people act, how wealthy people act.
I like the Waldorf.
Waldorf is nice. They're building like 110 story there, you know?
It's a nice hotel.
But it's a feeling. So when you say average and ordinary, I was average and ordinary as a kid in New York City when my mom was a school teacher, right?
Yeah.
But over time, when I started meeting actual successful people, it's like, dude, they roll a different way, they talk a different way, they act a different way. Even you and I, right? Dude, this is a first time meeting, right? But I already know you're a freaking savage. Looked at some of your stuff, but there's a clarity and directness in how we speak.
Sure. Obviously, you travel the world, you speak. But is your main thing speaking, and then that's how you attract clients, and that then works into like a consulting business?
That's a great question. Yeah. So the two main clients I have are large corporations like eBay and Amazon that hire me as keynote speaker.
Oh,
so
no way!
Legit,
Wow,
like
so
corporate
kind of
speaking.
Like, wow, no way.
So like
and
Discover
is that
Card,
like motivational speaking?
No, it's more corporate.
Corporate. Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, I used to work for American Express. And so American Express, they hired me to build out their global sales decks. They literally used my decks, this is 20 years ago, to pitch our clients like IBM, Pfizer, Microsoft. And then I also wrote a speech for the former vice chairman and CFO of American Express. So I have like legit corporate credibility. Left that, came out to California with my first book. But over the last 20 plus years, I'm either hired as a corporate speaker, again, I spoke at eBay and Amazon.
When you say corporate though, like what type of talk is it?
So for instance, Discover Card will have an annual sales meeting. So they'll hire me to speak at there. So
and like motivate them or like teach them?
I mean, it's motivation, but it's teaching them the science of sales.
Got it. Okay, so it is learning.
Yeah,
okay.
eBay, they'll have conferences, whether virtual in person, where they'll have personal development. Yeah, but the thing is, the corporate space, it's actually a $1.6 trillion space. Jeez. More than music, more than sports. Because think about it, who actually sponsors the Olympics? Who sponsors music events? Corporations like eBay and Amazon, right? Yeah. So That alone is 1.6 trillion. And then you have e-learning, which is another 800 billion. And then self-help, i.e. personal development, that's $67 billion. It's over a $2 trillion space. So my clients are primarily corporations, clients, or conferences that hire me as a keynote speaker. Or when people started asking me, Christopher, how do you be a speaker? How do you brand yourself? So I created these online training programs and packages and done for you and my own events, which we talked about too, where, I can make 30, 40, 50 grand for one speech, which I'm currently billed out at for 1 hour, which is very respectable.
Wow, that is
But in
really
the
good.
self-help space, you can do 100 grand, $1 million from one speech.
Wow.
So like I did 200 grand one time at one speech for 90 minutes in front of 70 people. How do I do that? On the back end, I had a program at the time, $5,000, $10,000, and $35,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So most of the speeches you do now, is it your speeches for your business, or is it still a mix of the corporation type stuff?
I still do. It's still fun, right? Like we talked about before, like the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, his charity's a client of mine.
Yeah, that's the guy who just got married, right? Is that the guy who just got
There's
married?
a lot of
remember.
princes.
Okay.
But the main guy, his nickname MBS,
Okay.
he's going to be the king of Saudi one day. So he has a charity called the MISC Foundation. So I spoke at this MISC Global Forum a few years back. They love what I talked about in terms of storyline and storytelling for the country. That's what I'm saying. I don't just have corporate clients. I have business owners. I have princes. But the main clients really are either business owners, entrepreneurs, royalty that want to understand how to craft a message for either their country, their conference, or their company, or big corporations that want to hire an actual expert in their field. In my case, it's sales. It's in how do you build relationships based on science.
Okay, so 2 follow-up questions to that would be, first, how do you get good at speaking? So if someone's trying to learn, and maybe besides the obvious, like, hey, speak more. If someone's listening to this and they see you and they're like, wow, this guy's a really amazing speaker. I mean, even going on your social media is like, the amount of events you go to is crazy.
Yeah.
So what would someone do to get good at speaking? Like, is there formulas or something they can do?
There is a formula. You ask great questions, Tanner. It's what I call this 3-story system. Ultimately, you need a personal story so they can relate to you. And I did my research too, right? I don't need to come to these podcasts anymore, but like you have just a good heart, good vibe, right?
Thanks, man.
I'm serious because you meet a lot of people out there that's kind of douchey, right? But I just admire savagery. I admire people that are doing what they're doing, teaching them. And so the 3 stories are, you need a personal story so they can relate to you. Professional stories so they can aspire to be you. And lastly, you need a client story so they have reason to pay you. No one's going to hire you if you don't have those 3 stories, where most people, when they come up to me, it's like, oh, Christopher, I love speaking. I walk the other way. Because speaking isn't about loving just the speaking parts. It's not actually speaking more. It's speaking with intention. It's speaking with purpose. It's speaking with a solution mindset where, okay, why would Discover Card hire me to teach them where they're a multi-billion company? Because I used to work for American Express, and I dive into the science of something as simple as a smile. If we're on an actual prospecting call and I make you smile, there are these 4 happy chemicals called dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, right? So I'm like, I go into the science of microexpressions, mannerisms, body language. So when you actually understand the science of this stuff, it's insane. Now that's one type of speaking, right? Corporate speaking.
Yeah.
But the other side is the Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone. They all do the more what they call speak to sell. And I do the same, by the way, not to what they do, but it's ultimately, hey, Tanner, you want to be a speaker? Well, here's one specific marketing tip that you can use as a story, but here are 42 other things that if you want to learn more, you can invest in my programs. So when I first started doing more self-help, I was like, they're kind of scammy. But now that I'm more aware of what they do and why they do it, it's like Dan Bilzerian or Hugh Hefner back in the day. They put the carrot stick over the hot girls in the car and the yacht because that attracts attention. I'm not about that. I'm actually a minimalist. But to finish your question, if you want to learn how to speak on stage and actually make money, then it's about understanding that you have to frame it in a way where, hey, you're here, you want to get here, I want to teach you how.
Okay.
You can do it genuinely. I just didn't see a lot of people I was learning about doing it genuinely. So now I'm like, look, dude, I show them a screenshot of a speaking bureau. It says 30, 50 grand for one speech. If you want to learn more, you can apply for my program and maybe I'll work with you.
Got it.
So it's like super chill, no like hard selling. But if anyone's listening to this right now, anything you do has value. And if you understand sales as this man here who's a beast in sales, you can turn that value into being what they call a knowledge expert. And as a knowledge expert, you can charge for that.
Most of the events you do now, or I guess if someone wants to learn from you, they're usually learning are they learning business in general, or is it mostly speaking? Like, if I was a client of yours,
Yeah.
are you mostly teaching about speaking, or is it also the back end, like service or product that
It's
you're
those
selling?
three things. It's the credibility, communications, and connections, right? So some of my clients, let's say I just talked to someone recently. He has a $500 million fund. He wants to raise $10 million.
Crazy.
And so it's what I call a networking right-hand man. Where imagine you want to raise $10 million or even $50 million. And I were to walk you into a room that has the most net worth in the world. And I mean this literally, not like hubris, right? And so like Milken Conference, it costs, no, because, you know, in this
Not
South
Soho in Miami.
so it was cool, but
No, I
that
know.
membership was $3,000, right?
Yeah.
Milken costs $25,000 to go every year, and you have
that's
presidents as
crazy.
there. But imagine my client pays $50,000 just for the tickets.
Yeah.
But he pays me a few $100,000 for being his expert CIA meets Navy SEALs, where I literally make the intros, introduce him. But it might be $250,000 or even $1 million. But if he can raise $100 million, is that not a steal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Michelangelo once said that the challenge that most people have is not that they aim too high and miss it. They aim too low and reach it.
Right.
Like, talk about your life, right? Did you imagine you can make $25 million from 1 year?
That's something I've been thinking about lately is I need to aim higher. Even when I'm listening to podcasts or I see people who've done amazing things. There was one I listened to today. I forget what it was called. Maybe it was like I don't know. I forget who the podcast was. But they basically said, in short, they had a bunch of billionaires and millionaires over, and they were playing basketball, and it was like Mr. Beast and Jesse Itzler and like some people like that. And they were saying that they said, yeah, some like the biggest thing is like they noticed that some of the people really weren't that smart. They
weren't.
just set.
I know.
They just set like a different trajectory
Yeah.
for their life.
Well, here's the thing, right? Warren Buffett always talks about the 8th wonder of the world is compound interest.
Yeah.
Right? But the 9th, 10th, 11th, 18th wonder of the world is upsells. That's why a Tony Robbins can make $30 million for one event. That's why Russell Brunson can make. I'm just saying. That's why I was telling you, like, dude, let's do an event. Imagine you make $1 million in a day, and that's possible, or even $10 million a day.
Like,
you know?
Yeah, and to be frank, I just haven't done much.
It's okay,
events.
though.
I haven't done much. Like I've done some client events, but it's a little different.
But it's fun though, dude.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Robbins has been at every ClickFunnels event I think since they started. And Garrett, he also brings Garrett White a lot. I don't know. I haven't seen Garrett White, but he's always at the FHL events. So let's say a client, they come to your event, you're speaking, they buy, then you're helping them. Like on average, just curious for the listeners, what's like the average client you work with? Like, are they consultants? Are they they purely just speakers? Like, what are they usually selling after, and then what are you kind of helping them with?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on where I'm at, right? So let's say I have one client who's a prince in Thailand, right? But generally speaking, it's a coach or speaker. I was at Aspire, so this woman, 30 years of experience in Cisco. She wants to be a speaker. So in her case, I would probably build out a speaker website for her, help her understand how to write her scripts, how to write her speech, how to write her actual intro. It's what I call IRS. I stands for the icebreaker, how do you introduce yourself. Most people are boring. R stands for how do you build rapport. And last is S. So most of my clients now, because I really love the coaching space and the entrepreneur space, is really most of them want to build a business. Whether they want to get the 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, guess what? They either have a product, but they don't know how to sell it. And even if they have a business, they don't have the credibility. And it sounds basic. Everyone knows you need to build a personal brand. But it's what I call a boss bio. Someone can literally say, I'm a speaker and entrepreneur. Who cares? But let's say Terry Jones is a client of mine. He created Travelocity. He didn't create one, he created 2 unicorn companies. Terry Jones is a serial entrepreneur and keynote speaker. You can remove Terry Jones and put Tanner Childester, Christopher Kai. But if you say, based on a few hours of research, what I did for Terry, I said, okay, he actually was a pioneer, and he was a tech pioneer who played a pivotal role in creating $1 trillion industry. So you tell me, what sounds like a boss bio? I'm a serial entrepreneur and a keynote speaker, or I am a tech pioneer who played a pivotal role in creating $1 trillion industry.
Yeah, of
Now,
course.
that takes a lot of research, right? So most of my clients come to me because they either want to make money or make a difference. And wherever they're at, it's always the same thing. I help them build a personal brand. I help them communicate, and I love being on stages. So either they're on my stages or I help them find other stages.
Yeah.
And lastly, networking, it always comes down to that. But just because you're in the right room, like I said, if you went to the Milken Conference, if actually 2 weeks from now, there's a thing called FII. It costs $15,000 for membership. But last year you had Eric Schmidt from Google, you had Jared Kushner, who's the son-in-law of President Trump, right?
Wow.
the thing is, there are no politics in a lot of these rooms. It's not red or blue, it's green. So people that are actually, that have true wealth, they pander to both bases. This is not political, but they're not Republican. I'll see Republicans there. I'll see Democrats there. And, you know, Donald Trump, I think his Secretary of Treasury, he used to work for Soros, George Soros, who's like as liberal as it gets.
Yeah.
But here's Trump. Yeah, I'm not getting political because I'm not a political person. I'm a businessman with a purpose where I want to help people. I want to make money. I want to make a difference. Because at the end of the day, Tanner, you and I are going to be dead one day, as we talked about, like, you know, before.
Of course.
But while we're here, how can we serve? So my clients primarily are people that have businesses as coaches and speakers. They haven't had that breakthrough. So I teach them how to get that network they want, how to build that credibility, and how to communicate, ideally on stage. Because once you're a speaker, you have instant credibility. You can communicate when they come to you, and it's what I call next level networking.
Yeah.
You don't need to find clients anymore. They come to you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much pushing people out. I don't need to work with you.
Yeah,
dude.
and you learn sales. Like I do think something that really helped me. Obviously, this is a little different, but speaking, I think, could be similar or seen as similar to door-to-door sales.
Absolutely.
Because I did door-to-door sales, and that absolutely benefited my career. So the next thing, going down sales and marketing a little bit. Let's say I'm an average client, or you can even talk about your experiences. How often do you run these events, and then what's the key way usually of filling it? Is it just organic? Is it ads? Because here's, in terms of speaking events, I'm sure you can make a lot of money. The only thing is, like, how often are they running them? Because if that's their main driver of sales, do you have, okay, do it once a month or do it every quarter and use this?
Yeah,
or,
you ask a great question. It just depends, right? Because a lot of people, they're just focusing on money.
yeah.
I'm pretty good at my net worth, right? So I'm going to make more money. But when you get to a certain point with money, it really is about experiences, what I call unique life experiences. So I'll give you two specific examples, right? Aspire Tour, they drop $1 or $2 million every month. They bring 2, 3, 4,000 people. They have Gary Vee there. They have David Goggins there, right? I was just on a global tour last year with it's called Success Resources. Success Resources is the largest seminar business in the world. They have 400 events a year in 37 countries. So when you talk about scale, they're the biggest one in the world. So I was one of the speakers. I was in Malaysia, I was in Singapore, I was in Dublin, I was in London, right? So, but it's all the same process, whether you're Tony Robbins, Success Resources, Aspire, and I'm dropping all the top people in the world, right? What I'm saying is they'll drop a lot of money in ads, millions of dollars in ads, they'll fill the room, and they'll have speakers sharing a story in a very specific structure of a time frame. At the end of it, if you want to learn more, buy my program. So that's on the highest level for someone else. I do my own events called Gift X Talks. It's been called the TED Talks for Entrepreneurs. I've had the TED founder come to my event. I've had Queen Dayami come to my event, right? So for that, those are all my events that people pay me to get on my stage. It's kind of called sponsor speaking.
Right.
Because what people don't realize is that it's not just about your story. Tanner, when I first started my business, I wrote a book.
Yeah.
I had a website. I had a speech. No one cared. It took me 8 years. It came around the branding. So when I met a guy named Tyler Wagner, who at the time was a 22-year college dropout, he's still a good buddy of mine. And he's like, I wrote a book on networking. Took me 3 months. #1 bestseller. I literally pushed another book aside that I had already finished, and I finished this book in 8 weeks. And it became a #1 bestseller. So, you know, I wish I can say, you know, Tanner, it's all about your story, which is important.
Right.
But we live in the most distracted time in human history that if you don't have Inc. magazine, literally, they wrote this article saying, he's a billionaire networker. Or Elon Musk on video says, wow, you know a lot.
Yeah, I actually saw that. I saw. I was going to ask you about that. I saw that video with you and Elon. That's pretty wild, dude.
But see, this is how there's so many haters out there, Tanner. They'll be like, that video looks kind of old. I'm like, hey, dickhead. It might be old, but have you interviewed Elon Musk?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's sick either way.
I'm just saying, but people are so unfortunate. They're such trolls and critical people. Objectively, it was like really poor quality production video. It was a while ago, but it was at a homeless program I created at the largest shelter in LA. But objectively, I have on video that Elon Musk said I know a lot.
Yeah.
And I recently, that same event I'm going to in 2 weeks, I emailed Elon Musk.
Oh, no way.
And he responded.
No, did he really?
Yeah. Right? So,
No
so
shit.
he's like, thanks, but I'm buried in work. But again, someone might say,
I'm like, yeah, no way.
no, but again, like talk about copyright. You're a sales guy, right? I'm going to show it to you because you have to show, not tell, right?
Yeah.
But who emails Elon Musk and gets a response? Just so you know, right?
Wow, bro, that's
Right?
That's so interesting.
But I'm just saying,
even the way it was written, it kind of looks like he wrote it too. Like even the
no,
way
he
it was
did
written.
write it because he's a man of Very few words. But again, how do I get Elon Musk? How do I get Princess? Because it's about a copy, and it's a science.
Yeah.
Everyone after you write this book, they're like, "Oh my God, could you introduce me, Lady Gaga?" I'm like, dude, who are you? Like, I don't even know you, right? So people are so basic, where it's like, get to know people, build rapport. Because if you don't build rapport, no one gives a shit about you. No one gives
To go off what you're saying, just for the listeners, something that I've always find interesting is, I think part of what makes me so aggressive is I got to a point in my life where I think my dad, we had a conversation. He said something like, you could get whatever you want, but you have to go get it. And so when I got in sales, I usually took the stance of, hey, if I don't convince this person to buy, they're not going to. So it would make me very aggressive. And in consulting, going to the point of what you're saying about getting these negative comments, sometimes, I'll talk to someone like, oh, dude, I'm doing 10 grand a month, or dude, I'm doing 25 grand a month. And it's not that I look at them in a bad way, or I'm like trying to put them down. I'm like, hey, dude, like, that's great. I've done $2 million a month. That would take you 10 years to make what I make in a month. Right. And I think like,
or if they hire you, they can.
But I think going back to your point, the reason there's people who do that, because I still to this day don't understand. Like when I see that, I'm like the Elon Musk thing, I would never in a million years be like, oh yeah, bro. Like, I'd be like, dude, like that's sick. But I think it's a different mindset of people trying to be all they can be. And then the people who are not, because they're not trying to be all they can be or improve, then they have to try to justify.
Yeah, they try to flex with whatever they have.
And it's unfortunate, but there's levels to the game. And I think whenever you're trying to be the best you can be, you're not gonna hate on other people because you'll get excited. You'll get excited for them.
I'm excited for you, dude. Like you're a young cat doing your thing. I'm like, great job. Because unfortunately, again, if people grew up with parents that didn't love them, there's already a crack in their armor, right? There's already a crack in their soul and their spirit, right? So whenever you flex on other people, like, let's say Israel Adesanya, I'm really a big MMA guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a legend, right?
Yeah.
But it's like people, you look at the comments, like at the end of the day, who's watching, you can be like a woman who saw me speak in Texas a few months ago. It took her a month to post a video first on Instagram of clips of Elon getting bashed. And then she flips to herself saying, you know what? I saw Christopher Kai speak and he lied to us. He said you can be a founder and CEO of your own company. And I'm like, yeah, when I was 7 years old and I'm knocking on doors for my neighbor when it's cold and saying, I'm going to shovel your snow at 7 years old and make $100, I can call myself founder and CEO of Christopher Kai's shoveling services. Yeah. That's factually true. Yeah. But she took literally a month to post a video on Instagram. I'm not going to mention her name, where she literally takes clips of Elon Musk being shit on and then talks to the camera and say, Christopher Kai's a liar. I'm like, why don't you spend that time on actually building your business instead of hating on someone else, where it's like, I thought about it, okay, am I lying by saying I'm a founder CEO? I'm like, no, like if you want to be a coach today, you have to actually say you're a founder CEO of a coaching company. So it's not registered yet, but you have to literally say I'm a founder CEO, right? So I just felt sad because I'm like, hey, not gonna fill any names, but it's like, do your job. Like, stop focusing on hating on other people, because you have one life. You literally have one life. And if you don't spend your time now serving and building solutions, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Look at someone like Andrew Tate, right? People are like, oh, he's a misogynist. Like, I objectively have listened to a lot of his stuff. And I would say 90% is pretty accurate. He is very stoic. He's like, men, be men. Like, what's wrong with that, right? Now we live in a world, especially in America, it's like, oh my gosh, if I go on a date and I'm like, hey, that's an amazing dress you have on. Sure. Oh my gosh, Christopher Kai made me feel uncomfortable. I'm like, no, I just commented on it. But we live in such a sensitive world where a man can't be a man. And what does that mean? There were hunters and gatherers. They're not saying women cannot be hunters now, but do women that are listening to this right now, do you not want a man that will actually help you? And literally, there was one scene in Andrew Tate, he's with Patrick Bet-David. He's like, I will fight for you. I will die for you. I will kill for you. Can't you just make a meal? And I'm not saying like, it's not just a meal. It's about, I want to cook for my girl.
Right.
And it's not just a meal. It's like, I have an Italian friend named Marco Corelli, right? Yeah. He loves cooking. And he's teaching me how to cook. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. But I'm saying, we live in a world where it's so sensitive that, dude, if you're in sales, you need to hunt, you need to be persuasive, you need to be influenced, but do it with heart and intention. Right. And people don't ever tell the truth, because what's the difference between manipulation, influence, persuasion, and sales?
I would say manipulation is, because sometimes I'll say sales is ethical manipulation. So the difference would be, I guess it's your intentions, right?
Exactly, right? Because I think like Tim Ferriss, like it's just when a screenwriter creates Jordan Belfort and Wolf of Wall Street, they know exactly what they're doing.
Right.
When a novelist who's writing these romance novels or vampires, they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly that this woman's gonna cry. They know exactly when we're watching Troy or like Gladiator, I'm like, I'm fucking, you know?
Yeah.
These people who understand the science of communication know exactly what they're doing. So people who actually are in the know, they know that if you want to do well, the single most important skill you need to learn in life is sales. And the newest book that I'm rewriting, it's called Wizard of Words. And this is actually the first time I'm actually openly sharing this publicly. It's called Wizard of Words, How to Sell Like Steve Jobs.
Oh, no way.
Isn't that a fucking awesome title?
That is a great title.
And
I would read that.
And in Wizard of Words, Bill Gates at one point said, I was like a minor wizard, but Steve Jobs would mesmerize with his words. So this is Bill Gates saying he was a minor wizard and that Steve Jobs would mesmerize. Like, Bill Gates is very logical. He's like, he sees Steve Jobs like, wait, he's saying this? Wait, Elon, you know? But when you understand, so you're an expert in sales, right? And I believe that. I've seen your stuff, right? But I'm an expert in sales, but also stage sales. This
Right.
is why President Trump, President Obama, Winston Churchill, Malala Yousafzai, Sarah Blakely, Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, they are masters at sales. They don't see them as sales, but when you look at someone like Warren Buffett, he said that success he has is based on public speaking. He said, if you learn public speaking, it'll last you 50 or 60 years. If you don't know it, it's a liability. Now, I'm going to call out Warren Buffett. I called Uncle Warren. He lied because Warren Buffett is turning 85. No, he's turning 95 in 6 months.
Yeah,
He took
that's
his first
crazy.
public speaking class when he was 20. So public speaking hasn't lasted 50, it's lasted him 75 years. So when you ask me what I teach my clients, I teach them that if you want to be a great business owner as a coach, podcast host, consultant, because unfortunately, Tanner, most people don't tell the truth. They're like, I want to help people, which is fine. I want to have a podcast. I want to, like, dude, be a speaker. Go on stage, whether virtual, in person. And when you speak, you will make more money, make more of an impact. You can provide for your family. So most of my clients that come to me, either because they want to be a speaker, want to be a coach, they don't know how. So I'm saying, this is how you do it. And unfortunately for them, they have imposter syndrome. I helped a 20-year-old girl, a young woman actually, not a girl, 20-year-old girl named Shazad, she's like a sister to me, make $4,000 from her first speech at IKEA in Sweden. I invited her to my event last year in Amsterdam. She's now 28 years old. She has a 6-figure net worth, has bought multiple properties, has spoken, got an award from a king of Sweden, and works for a private equity firm.
Wow.
Now, if people are listening, that's called a client testimonial where you can say, oh, Christopher, he's very passionate. But that's, again, personal story. Mine, teased, bullied, punished, didn't have a lot of love growing up, didn't feel very attractive. Professional story, he goes from being punished in school for writing 7 books, travel the world, makes a lot of money, helps a lot of people. Client story, Shazad, 28 years old, 6-figure net worth, but I have hundreds of testimonials. Because like you, I'm straightforward, I'm direct, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But unfortunately, people that don't know what they're talking about have to kind of triangulate. Well, what do you mean, Christopher, you worked for the Crown Prince? I work for the Crown Prince's Foundation. Don't put words in my mouth. Oh, you're good buddies with Elon Musk. I didn't say I was good buddies with Elon Musk. I have met Elon Musk. He came to me. But then people will just create the story. I'm like, dude, I've never said I'm Elon Musk's friend. I do have billionaire friends or billionaire mentors, but people just start creating their own story of who you are.
We have an ad on Facebook right now that says something, is your mom the only one liking your social media posts? Do this instead. And I shit you not, I have empathy for people, but there's a girl, and she like, there'll be people saying like, what do you mean? Isn't your mom like the most important person? I'm like, you guys are missing the point. It's like, if your mom's liking your post, she's not paying your bills. Like that, the point is like, get engagement from strangers who can pay your stuff. And it's kind of interesting where, kind of to your point, it's just the energy people put into kind of creating these different stories. It's like, it's so off the point. It's like, who cares? And, you know, I just can't relate. And I
can't relate, but because you are a ambitious, clear-minded.
I just look for what I can use, and if I can't use it, I ignore it. I don't care. Like, cool. Like that guy.
But that's why we're here on this podcast, hopefully sharing value to people listening. And but again, you can't even hate on them too, because maybe they're 15 years old. Maybe like I didn't know a lot of stuff that I know. You know, but it's just like those who are listening. there is no reason why you should be successful. And again, I watch your stuff too, right? Because I want to be prepared too, right? It's like, look, man, if you like send 20 texts a day and 20 times, 4 hours, that's, and then every week,
there you go.
because you use door-to-door sales. But again, is it a coincidence, Tanner, that you did door-to-door sales? As Tony Robbins did, as I did at 7 years old, add to Sarah Blakely. Sarah Blakely, billionaire, who's married to, Jesse Isler. Yeah.
She's a beast. Yeah, I think just from a young age, I just was so desperate that I got over imposter
But you had the
syndrome.
hunger, like I said. You call it desperate, as I was hungry. But for those who are listening, right? If you live in the Western world and have the ability to get paid, you have no excuses, because it wasn't knowledge anymore. You have Google, you have Instagram, right? Because I've been in Ramallah, Palestine, I've been in the West Bank, I've been in a lot of poor countries. You don't have a bank account, you don't have a place to get paid. So it's like, we are so fortunate. But since we're in the social media, it's very easy to go to various social media things like, I'm like, dude, literally spend 10 minutes a day on learning about sales. Watch Tanner, watch me, because there is no excuses.
You have to. I honestly think if you don't, I look at all my best clients, and the clients who do the best are the best at sales. The clients who struggle the most it makes sense.
Always sales.
Because sales is what drives the business ultimately. And a lot of the other skills are easier to learn. Like, I think if you know sales, most of the other skills in business are actually easier to learn.
Why do you think that is, Tanner?
Because ultimately, you have to get someone to like you, trust you, and see your way of thinking. And what people think, most people, and as I got older, this is what I think, is they try to convince someone by telling them. So they're like, oh, you're so stupid. Like, that doesn't make sense. But that doesn't convince people. So the way you have to convince them is you have to think a step ahead and go, what question do I have to ask to get them to question their belief themselves and change it? And so, for example, if I wanted you to think the sky was green, I'd be like, so Christopher, you said that you think the sky is blue. Like, why do you think the sky is blue? And I'd start like asking you questions that would make you question your belief.
I'm actually red, green color vision, okay? So certain color, I actually can't tell. Is that a blue shirt you have on?
Exactly. Yeah, it's blue. I think a lot of people, they don't understand that part of sales. They think it's about telling, and ultimately that doesn't convince people, because like they just blow it off. They're like, they're like, you think that because of this. And so when you ask questions in more of like a childlike curiosity, that to me is where people are like, well, wait, man, like, maybe he has a point. Maybe he's on to something. And that's where you kind of change your beliefs. That's at least how I've changed mine too.
No, and again, I've watched your videos. Certainty. And again, you listen to people ask questions. For instance, someone asked me, oh, Christopher, I'm going to write a book. Okay, you want to write a book? Why? Well, because I want to help people. Okay, well, what's the probability of, if you write a book, which might take you 1 month, 2 years, and 10 years, or never, you spend 10, 20, 50, or $100,000, or if you give a speech, which might take you 3 hours, and you know how to impact people. I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, so maybe if you want to impact people, you might write a speech that you can actually impact people more. I was like, so again, as you said, if their goal is to impact people and inspire people, you're better off speaking on a stage, whether with 10 people on Instagram or 10 people in person, and then in time, you'll know exactly what they want to hear from you. And if you actually want to be a business, then you can actually write a book.
I'd agree with that. And for anyone listening, I'm not huge on speaking yet. Maybe I'll change, but
well, that's where I come in, Tanner. So we're gonna do events there.
Yeah, maybe, right? So, but the reason I say that to people is just the amount of the effort you put in. But I will say, for the amount of effort you put in, usually you will get more sales at an in-person event than you will online.
Always,
and so for anyone who's trying to maximize, let's say, cash, their time, improve skills, I would probably agree with what you're saying. Is like, speaking is probably one of the best ways to do it.
It's the best. And that's the thing, Tanner. Like you said before, like, how do you get better at speaking? It's not just speaking more. It's about speaking with intention. Again, if you want to make money as a speaker, there's a certain cadence and structure. And that's why Dr. King, who is one of the most inspiring leaders in the world, do you know when he gave that I Have a Dream speech? I have a dream that one day this great nation. Do you know how long ago that was?
I think it was in the 30s, wasn't it?
It was in the 60s.
60s, okay.
No, but that's okay. But
no one laugh at me as listening.
No, but that was 62 years ago on August 28th, 1963. I have a dream, right? It was only 5 minutes. But that dream has lasted.
That whole talk, and that talk gets brought up all the time.
Yeah, but I tell all my clients, look, I literally have a Gift Direct Talks virtual. At that time, I charged $5,000 to have my clients speak 5 minutes. Like, why would someone pay me $5,000? It's because if you can't convince someone in 5 minutes, no one's going to care about your 50 minutes or 5 hours. So that's why true mastery of a subject it's like when you watch Kobe Bryant, when you shoot that ball at Olympics, that time it took them for that 5 seconds, took them 5 years or 50 years, right? So in speaking, if you were to dissect my cadence, my tonality, I'm looking at you, I'm using body language, those are more the surface. But you can feel my intensity, my heart, my fierceness, and it takes time to build that. Because as Jensen Huang from NVIDIA said, I hope you suffer, Tanner. I hope you all suffer, because you don't suffer, you're not gonna have grit.
Yeah,
if you don't have grit, you're not gonna be successful.
Yeah.
And in sales, people hate it because, oh my God, Tanner, my client said no. I feel so hurt. Fuck it. It's rejection. Who cares?
Matter. Going into that, my favorite saying, and I'll paraphrase, is it's just, if you want to have an extraordinary life, then you must have a difficult life. If you want an average life, then it's going to be like pretty easy. And it makes sense because when you're talking to someone about something you've done extraordinary, why do we think it's extraordinary? Because it was hard, right? If it's not hard, then we're like...
But it's also fun, I spent 100 hours on creating a deck last year, but I also made like over 100 grand from like 2 speeches, right? And it would have made more, but that was their stage, that was their country, that was their community. But that's what I'm saying. Anyone who wants to make money, make a difference, start understanding how to speak and go online. Like Tony Robbins had 1.3 million people on a recent event last week. 1.3 million people.
That's crazy, man.
So that's why when I ask you about speaking, it's not just the money, it's like the time, it's the fun.
Yeah.
And again, you're a cool dude, and I meet people that I don't just need to make money anymore. It's like, no, like I want to make money, make a difference, right?
Sure.
So for you, I see your platform, I see your hustle, I see your heart. I know you want to help people, so why wouldn't you want to speak in front of 10, 50, 100,000 people, right?
Yeah, if there's leverage, 100%.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the things that just like, I haven't quite figured out the leverage part yet.
Well, that's where I come in.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, when you did talk to Elon, like what did that feel like? I mean, was it? I don't even know how it went down, but I imagine spending even a little bit of time with him must be something you think about or like you've talked about. So what was that moment like?
First, where I met him, right? People was asking, how did he meet people? It was at a $5,000 gala in Beverly Hills. And so when I met him there's always these galas that they try to raise money. This is during the Golden Globes. This is a while back in Beverly Hills, right? I used to live in Beverly Hills. And so I see him walking out of the gala, and this happens all the time. There's always after parties in the hills, which is Hollywood Hills, right? So my mind is when I see him waiting for his Tesla at the valet,
of course.
My mind is like, I'm like a 15-year-old kid. I'm like, dude, this fucking Elon Musk is so cool, right? But I don't do that. I'm not going to fanboy him, which most people do. I walk up to him and I say, hey, Elon, I saw you at the World Affairs Council. Great speech. Just really chill. I said, I have a homeless youth program. I'd love to have you inspire our kids with your story. Can I get your email? And he says, yes. He actually gives me his email. So I leave. So it's what I call CALF, C-A-L-F. C is compliment. Hey, Tana, that's a cool shirt. A is ask. Hey, Tana, let's do an event together. L is leave, which most people don't, and follow up.
People don't usually leave.
Most people don't approach because they're scared.
Right.
They don't compliment. They fanboy them. They don't ask for the kind of information.
Yeah, the fanboy is not the right frame.
And they don't leave. They just, man, oh my God, Elon, you're so amazing. No, like, just leave because now you're like everyone else.
Right.
And that happens all the time. Like I was in Davos, which is a place in Switzerland, but it's short. It's kind of a tagline for the World Economic Forum. It's literally, it costs, last I heard, like $60,000 to go as a member. But my point is, Jamie Dimon is there. Billionaire, CEO of JP Morgan Chase. He's like legit billionaire, just really smart. He's just hanging out there. Everyone's surrounding him. This one dude, young guy, he's rambling off. I'm like, dude, you're talking to one of the smartest people in the world, and he's trying to like, I'm so amazing. I'm like, no, you're not. You just shut up and listen. So who's listening out there? Just like, there's so many people. The reason why I love billionaires, Tanner, is because they're like the Picassos of capitalism. They've won the world. They've literally like, even 8 billion people, there's only about 3,000 billionaires. Would you not think that you want to learn? So with Elon, I already read about him, but he's such a kind man, actually. Like now he's a little bit different, but it doesn't matter. Like 1,000 years from now, they'll be looking at Elon Musk. Yeah. And he has changed the human history. So I was just 100%. Grateful that I got to meet him, but I've met a lot of people. So for me, it's really about his intention to serve and the kindness. And this is what you never really see about people. It was at a homeless youth program I created at a shelter in LA. We always have a picture of the kids that are homeless. I said, Elon, the tradition is we'll take a picture of the kids. This is how you tell the guy was raised right, because I met his mother as well. His mother's name is Mae Musk, right? I said, Elon, please sit here. We'll take a picture. He didn't sit when I asked him. He sat when we sat together. Like that speaks volumes of who he is as how he's raised. You know, I'm like, hey, Tano, please sit here. You could have sat, but he waited till I sat. That's like very courteous.
Yeah.
And this guy's a billionaire.
That's such a cool moment. I just want to, definitely follow up and ask on that. Another question, shifting to social media, like you've built a pretty big following. Is there any tips or tricks you could give to people? Because like this is probably one of the biggest questions. Like, how do I grow on social media? How do I like post content? Like, what has been some maybe positives that you've done, and maybe some negatives that you could share of, hey, do this, don't do this, and this has really helped me.
It's really about when you're out there, just say, hey, follow me on Instagram. Like at one point, I was on LinkedIn and Facebook, but it's always the same. I might have like a virtual assistant reach out to people, like literally what you did. At first, when I started Facebook, my friends were like, yo, you only have like 300 friends. I just started DM people. I did it myself at the time. This is like 8-9 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So again, in the beginning, do it yourself. I did it myself. But in time, I'll hire a virtual assistant where I pay $5 in the Philippines. You'll DM hundreds of people, and then you'll find out the spam. Then you have to do, 3 different versions, And that's why I know my stuff, because if I know this, they're gonna block you, right? So at first, I would just change, hi, how are you, to yo, what's up, or yo, Chris or Tanner, So in the beginning, it really is building engagement, right? And in time, it's just you start building a following. A lot of people they hire these what they call like IG growth campaign people, and they'll just start hiring people that start building their following.
One of the key things for you has just been like trying to, I guess you like with outreach and stuff, like helping curate engagement.
At one point, you really need to hire someone. Like everyone you see that has millions of followers, they always hire people. And so I would speak a lot to hundreds, if not thousands of people. So it's a lot easier to get, hey, please follow me on Instagram, or please follow me on Facebook. But again, I think on LinkedIn at one point, I had 23,000 followers, whatever. But again, it just depends on where my focus is and where my clients are. So now I'm less about that and more about in person.
Got it. And do you have someone on your team who A to Z handles the whole thing, like what to post, the captions?
A lot of times it depends. I just go in different cycles and projects. So for instance, last year I was on again a 7-month global tour. Sure. With the largest seminar business in the world. So like even though I have a staff, they leave and I have to hire someone else and I have a team for that. But to keep it simple for everyone else, just start doing yourself, because it's not even about having millions of followers. If you want to make money, you're better off having 10 followers who who you build trust with. And if you can convince one of them to buy your program, then you have an actual business.
Yeah.
People get too hung up by having all these followers.
You have 2 ways to grow a business, guys. It's organic or it's ads. When I was early in business, I went more the ads route because I just saw a faster return, right? And maybe in hindsight, that was bad for me, who knows? But it was like, okay, I spend $1, I make $4. Great. Like when I posted, it was like, maybe I get some likes, maybe I don't. And I didn't feel it was as consistent, right? So, but either way, the clients I have that are the richest for sure, or even my friends, they have an engaged following. And a lot of times it's that work you put in to build that, or, over time, like that will save you 60% on expenses. Cause I'd say 60% of my expenses in a month, let's say it's $300,000 or $400,000, whatever, like 60% of that is ads. Yeah. And so if you can get that all back, that's actually where you can really start making some damage in business.
But see, the beauty of what you have, which I never really figured out with the ads, I spent a lot of money on ads, right? But it's like all these people, they sell you the dream, but it's still about, they might be engaged on Instagram, but you have actual analytics.
Yeah.
And that's why, imagine if you and I work together, you drive the traffic and I handle everything else. And that's what I do with a lot of my clients and colleagues, where it's like, there is no excuse that you cannot make money. You can see Tanner, I can't be that. You can't be it's as long as you have some hustle. Like, just spend not even an hour, just spend 10 minutes a day DMing 5 people and see how that happens. Because again, 5 people in a day, 25 in a week, 100 in a month, like it's because sometimes, you have a level of ambition that some people might not.
Sure.
But it's like telling someone, you got to do 100 push-ups a day. I'm like, that's not realistic. But can you do 1?
Yeah.
And if you study actual habits, whether you're looking at the Atomic Habits by James Cleary,
I like
or
that one.
The Power Habits by Charles Duhigg, or I think called Tiny Habits by, I think his name is BJ something from Stanford, all these people that write books on habits, or Flow State with Stephen Kotler. I'm just dropping all these names because again, I'm not that bright, okay? I had to read books, but I hated the fact that in school, they teach you to read books that you memorize to take a test and you forget it.
Yeah, exactly.
I read
they don't teach you how to think.
Dude, and you don't even think. It's like, just study cells.
Yeah.
You know, like it's kind of bad for me to say, but like
Yeah.
people say, I'm thinking about doing this. You know, I'm like, you can think about creating a retreat that took you 3 years, or you can just invest $5,000 in a retreat and then know exactly how to do it. But I don't have $5,000. Well, then spend $500. I'm just saying, unfortunately, people have to make investments to get a return.
Or be resourceful. It's like you're a grown adult. Like I think the biggest thing that's benefited me is I got to an age where I realized, one, if you don't care about failing, that's a superpower because you'll just jump into stuff and you don't care what other people think. And then number two is just being resourceful. You know, from 23 to 25, I made $2,000, and I told myself, I was like, you know what? I didn't know the coaching world. I didn't even know it was a thing. And, you know, people would, you know, hey, it's $5,000. So, oh, I don't have it. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was normal. And then eventually I got so sick and tired of it. I got a credit card, my first credit card.
Exactly.
And I maxed it out and I said, I don't give a fuck because it's like, it's either
you're tired of being tired.
Exactly. And so I think most people, maybe they have to get to that point, but if you like, ultimately no one's going to save you. So you have to figure out a way to do it, whether it's you do odd jobs, you get a loan from your parent, whatever.
Same thing. The first time I want to write a book, it took me 8 years, right? But it's the last eight weeks where I hired a guy. I went to this guy, Dan Porter, God rest his soul, he's no longer here. I bought into his seminar, which I couldn't afford. Then I bought the upsell, which I couldn't afford. But guess what? I understood the process. Whereas other people are like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. They're scamming. Like, shut the fuck up, motherfucker. It's not a scam. It's just like you're either investing in something you learned or you invest in something you didn't want to learn from. You know, I'm just saying, like, unfortunately, people just always look at, oh, this is a scam. Like, dude, if you Google Buddha is a scam, you'll have people saying that. If you Google Muslim, Islam, Jesus Christ, everyone's called a scammer.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about that stuff and focusing on if you want to live a great life, start learning sales and marketing. And the best way is by being a coach. Let me give you a very example, right? Yeah. Lynn is a client of mine. I think she was in her 20s. She had an Airbnb and she didn't want to be called an expert. So okay, I said, Lynn, how much do you make a month? She's like $1,000. If you make $12,000 a year, you're telling me you can't convince someone that has made no money from Airbnb to pay you $1,000 to teach them how to make $12,000.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so all the people out there, anytime you've done anything, someone's asked you for, oh, Tanner, you do good at sales. Oh, great. I charge $100,000. Wow, that's a lot of money, but I made $100 million. That's a pretty damn good investment. You can't afford $100,000? Okay, let's do installment plans, right? All I'm saying is, unfortunately, when this book came out, I was talking to this dude at my event in Beverly Hills. The guy is talking about he's always trying to get this girl, go on this girl, spend hundreds of dollars on a date. And I'm like, oh, how much did you book, Christopher? $20. Oh, I can't afford that. I'm like, dude, you just told me you spent hundreds of dollars on a date trying to like get with this girl. What I'm saying is about priorities.
Girls over bucks, baby.
You know, unfortunately, the people out there, going back to you, priorities.
Yeah.
Everyone can do better in their life if you just literally cut away social media and
It's
just
it's
start
what you
focusing.
take out. Yeah, it's what you take out, not what you add in.
Yeah.
A lot of people just have a lot of distractions, and if you get rid of those distractions, you can absolutely crush.
But the coaching world is the best and easiest way to make money because you don't have to have a degree. You don't have to get credentials. You don't have to write a book.
Yeah.
You know, I literally posted a flyer 8-9 years ago on a Saturday, September 16th, talking about my GPS speaker training program, and I made $4,000 from one post.
Yeah.
You know, just like when you buy a condo, they'll actually have a rendering and they'll sell a $2 million property just based on a rendering, you know? So all the people out there, you don't need to have a book or a podcast, even create a coach program. You actually create the flyer on Canva for free. And I teach my clients how to do that. Whether my clients want to make 10 grand, 100 grand, a million, 10 million, 100 million. It doesn't really matter how much you want to make. You just start where you are.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many free resources that were not existing 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. Also, going back to your scam comment, something that I think would be good for people to hear is I initially, when I got into the coaching world, I hired 5 coaches in 6 months. And the reason is in 30 days, I felt, I was doing the 10X rule by Grant Cardone, right? And I was doing so much volume that I said, hey, what they're teaching me, either I'm not smart enough to get it or it's not working. And that actually helped me become successful. And when I looked back, there was a time where I said, man, I wish I hadn't wasted money on that guy.
No, you say wasted, right? But now you know what not to do,
exactly.
Right?
So, that was the point I was about to make. So over 6 years, I've done the math. I've spent about $3 million on coaching. And 80% of it, I would say, was quote unquote not helpful. Meaning it's not something I do anymore. But going to what you just said is I was convicted that this is the wrong way.
Yeah.
And this
Now
is
you know
the
what
right
the right
way.
way is, yeah.
And people, it's weird because people, they don't They don't look at it that way.
Yeah, but Tanner, if you spend $3 million, invest $3 million, you made $100 million. That's a damn good
Exactly
investment,
right.
you know?
And then that's what I tell to people. I say, look at what I spent and look at what I made. And so even if what you pay for, quote unquote, doesn't work, you're learning what not to do. And that's just as helpful, because if there's 10 doors and you're not sure which door to walk into, like the only way you're going to know, let's say hypothetically, the right door is the very last door you walk into. Every door before that, you're just learning what not to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, for all the people listening, I know right now you might say, I know, Tanner and Christopher, I tried, but it didn't work out. I tried it. But again, you keep trying. Like I remember I literally hired a marketing firm, Tanner. This is a true story. And she misspelled Elon Musk. You know, I had another one who the copy they misspelled Elon Musk. Literally.
I don't know how you mess up that spelling.
Right? And then I hired another marketing firm, and their copy, they hired someone else who the copy is hard, because I'm a copywriter myself. So again, I accepted that when I hire marketing firms over time, I want to see their copy, because I already know they're probably like a 22-year-old guy. I know a lot more than they, and they'll charge a lot of money up front. And I look at all this stuff, I'm like, no, you'd be blessed to work with me, okay? I have people giving them my services for free. That's why I'm like, no. That's why for you, when I see you've done it at scale, I say, cool, I can trust you because I can see the numbers, right? But the people out there, listen to what Tanner's saying, make investments. Again, I did the same thing. I put that money in my credit card.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. Like I used to be a singer-songwriter. I bought an 88 key weighted Triton. I didn't have the money. I bought the actual keyboard because I wanted to feel like how it felt like to be a professional songwriter. I spent thousands of dollars. At the time, I didn't have it. Again, put it on your credit card. You'll be more motivated, more focused, more hungry. I'm not saying to do that all the time, but in the beginning, there's no excuses. You know, like say minimum, I charge 10 grand, but I focus on that. Again, that's because I had one client that paid 2 grand. I didn't know she made like 10, $20 million. She recently paid me 20 grand, but I'm saying I have what I call a VP day. So imagine you wanted to make $10 million in one day, but you pay me $1 million. It's like, that might be a lot of money, but no, I can give you factually, statistically, how to craft a framing story of an event that you can make 10 million or 100 million. That's why like Tony Robbins can make so much money, because he understands the framing. He'll be like, as you said, look up at the sky. What do you see? The sky. Look at the floor. What do you see? This floor. They call it micro commitments. You know, I just do it more chill. I'm like, look, this is what I do. This is what I charge. You will learn more. Fill out the application, right? You can have elements of like super aggressive sales, or just, you know what, this is who I am. But unfortunately, the people listening, stop focusing on, oh, this person, that person. I don't know if I believe him. Just look at what you can learn. You'll always learn more from people you hate than people you like sometimes. Because if you, let's say you hate Obama, you hate Kamala Harris, you hate, Trump, whatever you hate or not, it's just a feeling. But if you objectively look at why people like Trump or Obama, they're both so polarizing per se, but they have a message. So does Jesus Christ. So does Muhammad. So does the Bible. Again, you look at religion, everyone had haters. I knew I became more successful when people start hating on me.
Moving a little bit into personal habits, when I see someone successful, I think one of the good questions I ask is, what are some of the habits or practices that you found to be most helpful for your personal or professional growth? And there's none, that's fine. But I think a lot of times people are very curious about, okay, this person's successful. What are some of the things they do or don't do on a daily basis that have made them that way?
One word. Ray Dalio does this. Jack Dorsey does this. Meditation. Meditation for me is like the vacuum cleaner for your mind every single day. All these thoughts. You literally have companies like Facebook, eBay, Amazon. All these companies spend billions of dollars to get your attention. If you don't pull back, remove your phone, if you don't meditate, some people who has ADHD, which I am as well, just focus on breathing. Andrew Huberman talked about this. If you take 2 deep breaths from the diaphragmatic breathing, go, and then breathe out slowly as if you're blowing out a candle, you'll already feel less stress. Your cortisol levels go down. So the single most important habit I do every single day is I meditate before I give a speech, before I have a call, before I do anything, because you have a clarity of purpose and intention. Most people are just doing this, doing that, doing this. It's not about working hard. You're going to be in McDonald's flipping burgers and you're working hard. You wouldn't be the guy. Do you know how McDonald's actually makes money, by the way?
The real estate, right?
Exactly.
It's from the actual land and the leases.
They actually buy the land and lease the property. So it's not about the actual burgers. And did you know that Jeff Bezos used to work at McDonald's in high school as a freaking cook?
Know that.
That's why, going back to the story, you have to share the story so people relate to you. But meditation is so important. Writing is so important. Reading is so important. And hanging out with people like you and investing. When you invest your time in people like yourself who know what they're talking about, then you'll get that much further off. Because it's not linear. Growth is not linear. That's why when I helped a grandma from Idaho, her name is Shelly, giving you a shout out, Shelly. I helped her make $47,000 in one day with 9 people in the room. Yeah. She's going to be at ClickFunnels next week, getting her 2 Comic Con award.
Yeah, I'm actually going out there with my team, so it's gonna
Right?
it's a little bit of it's gonna turn into more of a work trip, I think. But yeah,
But isn't that cool? A grandma from Idaho is now the millionaire grandma from Idaho that I helped first build her global brand because she hired me as a speaker. Again, going back to credibility, and it helped her make 47 grand for just one event with 9 people. 47 grand.
that's crazy.
Did another one, so we made close to 100 grand from 2 events. I'm just saying, for those out there, become a speaker, become a coach, go to ChristopherKai.com or go to Christopher Kaitam on Instagram, go to Tanner, because there's no excuse. There's a lot of free material, but once you don't have to be ready, by the way. You actually don't want to be ready. Your wings of courage will appear when you leap off your cliff of uncertainty. I'll say that again. When you're leaping off your cliff of uncertainty, when you are afraid, that's when your wings of courage appear. When you're knocking on those doors, do you know you're going to get that sale?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, half the time I get 3 out of 100. I'd be lucky.
But those 3, like the $3 million made you $100 million, pretty good investment.
I think for some people it's just improper expectations. Like they think it should be a certain way, and it's just not how.
But
it
again,
goes.
they think we know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I always have to bite my tongue. Every single person tells me, I think I should do this. Your thoughts don't matter in a sense, because if you haven't done, like even me, I think I should write a book. I think I'll be successful. That's why I thought, and nothing happened. Yeah. When I started investing, and this guy, Dan Poynter, wrote 100 books. He doesn't think about what to do. He knows. Yeah. I don't think I know I can make you money. I know because I've done this for 20 years. I've given thousands of speeches. I've spoken with Elon Musk, President Clinton, homeless. Like I've spoken with literally not who have you. It's like who have I not spoken with, you know? And when you share the stage, this is why when they talk about a Grammy winner, Alicia Keys, they'll put the brand before the name. They'll put Academy Award winner Leonardo DiCaprio. That's why with me, they can say Gift Directs Talks, Tanner Childester, who has shared the stage with the founder of TED Talks and Queen Nyambe. That alone, like, yes, you're legit in the sales world, but in the speaking world, literally, once you're on my stage, which I'm happy to invite you to one day, it's about the branding. Why does someone walk into a Ferrari dealership and drop $500,000 or $1 million?
Yeah, it's a brand. I mean, the brand of the car, yeah.
Yeah. So we're brands. Everyone out there, you're a brand, whether you realize or not. What you might not realize, you're trying to get a Louis Vuitton price, but you're selling Kmart. Nothing wrong with Kmart, by the way, but they perceive you as the Kmart, and you're trying to sell the Louis Vuitton brand.
Christopher, what's a question I should have asked you that I didn't, that you think if the listeners were to hear that would be helpful for them?
You don't have to know everything. You really have to just know one thing, and that one thing is just learn how to ask more questions, shut up more, and listen. It's what I call the 90-10. People always say, Christopher, what do you say at these events when you're networking? Christopher, what do you say? I already told you, CALF, C-A-L-F. Compliment them, ask a question, make sure you get the contact information, like the email or phone number, leave and follow up. Because people have all this imposter syndrome and they wonder what you say. You don't have to worry about what you say. Just ask questions and just be an active listener.
And just be interested, right? I mean, I think half the battle, like especially with famous people, they get so many fanboys that I think in my head, I go, I'm always saying, how do I stand out? The way you stand out is do the opposite of what they usually get. So if most people are doing that, if you do the opposite, that automatically helps you stand out. In your head, you think, oh, I'm going to miss this opportunity. But I think by doing what everyone does, that automatically disqualifies you in most scenarios, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
If people want to find you, like, where's the best places they can go?
Instagram, Christopher Kaitam, not Kingdom, but Kaitam. My last name is K-A-I, so forget the Kingdom. It's Kaitam. Welcome to the Kaitam. So Christopher Kaitam, or my website, Christopher Kai. But Christopher Kaitam, I actually check my Instagram sometimes. But Tanner, thank you for this great opportunity. Bro, yeah. All of you, you can do this. Be like this guy.
Yeah, thanks for dropping some heat. We'll have you on again soon.
Awesome.
All right.